Ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's go. We'll be getting some emotes any day now. Yes, any day now. Guild Wars. Okay, let's go d4 this time. Let's go d4. Let's play some main lands. Let's play Nimzo-Indian. This is called the Nimzo-Indian defense. Now, I will explain this after the game properly. But I'm going to play a move which I play as my main line. That is the move f3. The idea behind this is very simple. I want to play e4. Eric, thank you for the sub. Now we want to go a3 to chase the bishop away. Worry not, I will explain all of the theory after the game. Basically, you get this structure. Now, what should you guys notice about the structure? What does the battle revolve around? The battle revolves around one very specific thing. Very specific thing. It depends which way he takes. Knight takes... Okay. Is white going to be able to play e4? Is white going to be able to play e4 under the correct conditions? I can't play e4 now. Even if I technically could, I'm not developed. So every action that I undertake from this point onwards is going to be directed at preparing e4 as fast as possible. And developing this bishop is not essential to preparing e4. I need to develop the king side so that I can castle quickly so that I don't have to keep my king in the center when I do play e4. So let's see what I do e3. Where am I going to put this bishop? Where am I going to put this bishop? d3. Then I'm going to put the knight on e2. I'm going to castle. And I'm going to, at some point, be ready to play e4. This is the theoretical line. Black has several ways that he can go about trying to stop e4. But this is theory. This line is not considered to be black's best, but even Magnus has played it before, so it's very much legitimate. And knight e2 castles, and I will explain afterward whether we will be ready to play e4. Well, if c4, then bishop e2. We don't have to worry about c4. c4, bishop c2 doesn't actually obstruct, so rook e8, he stops it. Now, where can this knight end up to prepare e4? Where can this knight go with the express purpose of preparing e4? Bingo. g3. Okay, so it's not... He does play c4. But here's the problem with the move c4. He takes the pressure off of the pawn on d4. And can you guys see that now, if I play e4, I also have to deal with this pawn becoming weaker. Once he plays c4, the pawn on d4 is better protected, so I can direct all of my attention at preparing e4. It would be possible to play e4 here. But what do I need to do first? As a good Russian schoolboy that I am, let's be patient and let's castle. Well, space isn't important here. Space is a sort of... Okay. Transformational advantage. Space is like money. I'll explain what I mean. So finally, we can consider playing e4. But let's be good Russian schoolboys. And I guarantee you guys, if we can prepare this well, e4 is going to be a lot stronger. So let's play knight g3 first. Why? Because ultimately the knight can go to f5 in some positions, and there's nothing he can do to stop e4. Once we play e4, we're going to just steamroll him on the king side, and I want you to watch very carefully how I go about doing that. Here we go. Yeah, so time equals... Okay, so how do we do this? There's a very typical idea here. I will show you guys after this game, a game in which I applied this idea. How do we make something of this pawn? Of these pawns? Can anybody tell me? Yeah, we just push the pawns. Boom. Locking this in. And then boom, boom. Now, we're not just doing this to win a piece, although he can't avoid that. Even if this wasn't winning a piece, this would just be crushing. You guys should just kind of see that. Now, bishop g5 is a good thought, but he could play h6. And notice that the knight on g6 is covering the h4 square. And the game is basically over. So that's how effective this line can be if black isn't very precise. That's why I really play. That's why I like playing. And I've won a couple nice... Okay, so f5 is a good move. And here's the thing. What is the top item on our wish list? The top item on our wish list is to eventually get our pawn to f5. And the move en passant comes to mind. But en passant would be good. But I'm going to play... Well, actually... Yeah, en passant would be really good. Because the good thing about en passant is that if he recaptures, then we have f5 winning a piece. The problem with en passant, it is emotionally hard for me to part ways with my pawn mass. But you have to transform your advantage at some point. And you can't cling to something that's nice. Sometimes you have to kill your darlings, as they say in literature. Yeah, I'm writing down notes to explain after the game. Kill your darlings is a phrase my English teacher used to describe something you have to do in writing, where sometimes you get very clingy about a phrase that you think is good, and that actually holds you up in terms of expressing your thoughts better. So we're just going to autopilot this. What do we do now? Just bash it in. And this is the good thing, right? Our pieces, look at how well prepared they are to attack the king side. Well, queen g4 is tempting, but actually queen g4 is a really good move. Yeah, queen g4 is good, but let's go f6. Let's open up. Yeah, this is very violent terminology. I don't know why I'm all of a sudden talking about stuff so violently. Queen g4 would be good. But let's do this. Let's open up the bishop. Now let's figure out exactly what we want to do. Queen g4 here, I know is on a lot of people's minds. But let's be methodical. If we go queen g4, he can play bishop g6, and he can stop. I will explain. Knight f6, we had bishop g5. So he can stop the bleeding on the g file. So what we need to do is we need to find a way to bring another piece into the attack. And we need to circumvent his attack on the g6 square, his control of it. There is a different square that this pawn now controls, and that is the g7 square. Now, I know you guys are like, why the hell isn't he taking? Well, by taking on f6, he's opening up the possibility of me pinning him. Remember how you decide whether a pin is dangerous. Is there a pawn protecting the pinned piece? Notice that alliteration. In this case, there is no pawn protecting the pinned piece, and so that pin is going to be absolutely deadly. We're just going to pile up on this knight, and we're going to win the knight. And guys are going to see piling up. All I'm doing is just piling up on the knight, winning the knight, transforming our advantage up a piece in the end game. The game is over. That's it. That's all I did. Let's bring the rook into the game and defend the rook. Okay, now knight f5 here doesn't work because we lose control of our rook. But we want to get the knight to f5, so we need to move the rook first. Where should we move the rook? We can also take on h7. That's a good move. But let's go rook d6. That's the most active square for the rook, because if his rook moves away from e7, we can go to d7. Everything I'm doing should be making sense in terms of the attack. Okay, so now that's a good move. If we take it, he takes back, but we're going to do that anyway, because now we can take d5. That was another reason I played rook d6. Well, we keep getting sub-bombs. Okay, now let's just give him a check. Again, I want to emphasize that in this situation, there are so many ways to win these positions. Sorry, let me repeat. Oh, okay. So I wanted to repeat moves. I didn't want to allow him to double. Good games, Guild. And that was nice. Thank you. And he also watches my stream. So f3. The f3 is called the same-ish variation. And by the way, yes, it's the same-ish in both the King's Indian and in the Nimzo-Indian. Friedrich Samish had a thing for the move f3. And let me tell you, he introduced some very serious lines into chess. Oh, I am Kyle Ironman 500 bits. f3 was first played in the year... let's see when it was first played. It was first played in the year 1930 by Rottenstein. But he didn't play it well. Bogolyubov, Efim Bogolyubov, Max Erva, world champion, played f3. Samish actually... this is interesting. So Samish actually never played f3, but a3 is also the same-ish. It often transposes. White can go a3 first and only play f3 later. This is also the same-ish. And this same-ish actually did play. So he sort of played this, but I'm not sure why it's necessarily called the same-ish. Okay. Now, let's unpack what happened in the game. I think that for black, the move knight takes d5 is better because black immediately piles up on the base of the pawn chain. This is a theoretical line. I've also played games here. I'm not going to delve into this. But e takes d5 is the old school main line. Now, what should black do here? Black's main line is essentially to find a way to trade the bishop. Who can tell me how black can try to trade the bishop? Why do you trade the bishop? To make it harder for white to prepare e4. Because the bishop is the main supervisor of that whole operation. Malcolm is on fire. b6 and bishop a6. Now, you can say, well, no big deal. I can step aside. But now look at how good black's bishop is. And in a situation like this, it's harder to move the knight out because of the pin. So it becomes quite a bit harder to prepare e4. So in this situation, you actually don't do anything. You just castle. And that leads to some mainline theory. I'll show you guys a game in the slide. So So c4 is a mistake because it takes the gas pedal off of the d4 pawn. At least keeping that tension would have made it harder for me to prepare e4. And once we play e4, it's almost winning for white because this is just completely unstoppable. I almost think this is losing. I just don't know what black can do about this. And let me show you guys a higher level game where I actually did something very, very similar and beat a very strong player with this line. Now, the game I'm about to show you, it's a little bit more complicated, so I want you guys to prepare for a little bit more messiness than in this game. Okay, so basically this game, I played f3, and I'll talk about how space is money when we actually analyze. Well, so you guys can see R.Cataleo, 500 bits. You guys can see what he's doing. Here's knight g3, and now the move bishop b2. And I want people to help me explain this move. Why the hell are we putting the bishop on a square where it's literally blocked in, buried alive by these two pawns? Exactly. Malcolm F. Tucker is on fire today. I've noticed you're on a roll. Loving the engagement, my friend. So basically, we support 600 bits from I Am Called Iron Man. 400, 500, 600, here we go. Basically, it protects d4. So if we imagine when we do play e4, and I did, you can see that in a situation like this, the pawn on d4 is being very well protected by the bishop, and the bishop has a lot of what? Fill in the blank. The bishop has a lot of blank blank, using terminology that we have formulated. Potential energy, bingo. Potential energy. All right, bishop has a lot of potential energy. It's bad right now, but it's doing something really good. Rook c8, rook a1, rook e2. So I didn't play e4 yet, and the reason I didn't play e4 is because he takes, and what super nasty move does black now have? This is why patience is so important. You have to always be attentive to why your opponent does what they do. Queen c2. So now Lapshin plays knight f8, e4, knight g6, threatening the fork. So I step away with my queen. If we go e5 here, he counter forks my king and my queen and rook. Knight f4, we just go rook f2. And now watch what happens. Watch what happens. Boom, 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 boom. So basically this gets me these incredible pawns. The game went on. He didn't resign here, but black has lost. And it took me some finessing, but eventually I played e6. His king was weak. I got the bishop to a good square. We went into an endgame. I got my pawn to e7. Mozart of cheese. Thank you. I won the other pawn, and he resigned here because I'm just winning f7, and the pawns won me the game. That's pretty symbolic. Essentially, this is exactly what happens here. He takes f6, and f5, fg, and now f6. Why am I playing this move? Well, the logical reason is to open up the bishop. But if knight takes f6, we go bishop g5, and his knight is just busted. Also, like, you guys should look at this position, and it should be very clear to everybody that white is completely winning. I mean, just look at the amount of pieces that are in the attack. You shouldn't have to always worry about exactly how you're going to make things happen. You should use your intuition here to determine that you're going to have something here. I mean, black's position is just on its last legs, and we do the same thing we did in the game. Why is space like money? So money is something that society assigns value to. Money has no inherent value. I can get out a $1 bill or a $20 bill, and somebody from a completely different culture would not necessarily understand its value. It's a piece of paper. And we agree that it has value, so you can use it to buy stuff. And that stuff potentially has inherent value. Something that we can all agree is valuable, like a computer. Most people nowadays can agree it's valuable. And don't nitpick. You understand what I'm saying. Space and time, in chess, tempi, time, and space is the same concept. Space has no inherent value unless you make something of it. So just grabbing space to grab space is sometimes good, but it's only good insofar as you can transform it into some other advantage. And some people, I think, have a hard time with this because space advantage is actually one of the most innocuous types of advantages. You can use it very well. I'm never particularly good with a big space advantage, but you can also play when you're cramped to the last two rows. That's not necessarily a deal breaker to some positions. Okay, so just wanted to make that clear. I would say when you get to extra material, that is closer to an inherent value kind of thing. It's normally in any position, an extra piece has immediate value toward winning the game. Space needs to be transformed into something before it literally wins you the game. Okay? Anyway, so the rest of the game was very simple. We win the piece here, and that's it. We're up a piece, and the game is over. So I really like the same-ish variation of the Nimzo, And it's black has other ways that he can play against. The c5 is possible here. That's probably black's most popular line in the modern day. Also, he can drop his bishop back. That's the hyper-modern approach. You can let white have a huge center and then chip away at it with a move like e5. That's another good line. So I don't want to bog ourselves down with the theory, but that was your introduction to the Samish. If you're a d4 player, I would highly consider taking this on. And let's see how Magnus went about preventing this stuff. Oh, 300 bits, thank you so much. And it never stops. Thank you. And c4. So here's how Anand prepares it. He goes g4. He gets the pawn out there first to fianchetto the bishop, because this bishop will otherwise have a hard time developing. Carlsen goes for the queenside pressure, and you can see that Anand does manage to organize e4. That's how he does it. He puts the bishop on g2 instead of d3. Anand was better in this game. Carlsen won in the end. It was a complicated game. We're not going to go into it right now, but Anand did achieve e4 in the end. So you can see he found an alternate method of doing it. Let's get one last game in, one last speedrun game. And let's go back to playing e5. So knight f3, knight c6, and we have a 4 knights defense. So there's many ways of playing against the 4 knights. Now, one very topical line is to go knight to d4 here. I'll explain this after the game. Okay, so white goes for the drawing line. Yeah, I was going to say the drawback of this is that white has this line which ends in mass liquidation, so we have to take his knight. He takes mine. If I take on b2, he takes with the bishop, and he develops a lot of his pieces. So we got to take on f6. And we get this very symmetrical position, 2 bishops each. It's not a draw, but it's equal. So we got to develop our bishop. He's going to castle. Now, can we castle, or does this blunder a pawn on d7? Can we castle, or does this blunder a pawn on d7? We're getting a raid. Oh my god, don't tell me. We're getting another raid? By who? We can. Why can we castle? Why is bishop d7 not a move? Because of rook d8. Exactly, guys. Very nice. We pin him, so we got to notice these things. Bishop d3. Look at this bishop on c5 very carefully. It's undefended, which means he's threatening queen h5. Do we need to stop queen h5, or can we defend the bishop? And if so, how? What can we do? Zion Pure and Hard, thank you for the raid. Sorry, I might have missed the raid. d6 is exactly right. Good job, guys. d6 defends the bishop. g6 defends against mate. This is probably still theory. And now let's deploy the bishop. Now we got to be careful about where we develop it, because actually, let's not develop the bishop. Let's get the rook to an open file first. Let's be a little bit more flexible. Now we have to trade queens. Okay, queen h4. Wow, this is still probably theory, and I think I got myself in some trouble here. I forgot about that move. Do you guys see why I'm in trouble? Because bishop f6 is a big problem. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a little envelope for the queen. I'm going to go h5. And the idea of this move is to get the queen to h6. At least my queen is in the game. I am weakening my king side. That is true. But at least the queen is in the game. I haven't lost to anybody who wasn't using an engine yet, but I will, ultimately. And you guys might be like, well, how do you know that it's worth making the weak? Now, a4, what is the threat? What should we do? Yeah, so this threatens b4 and a5. We need to create a hole for our bishop. Let's do that with the move a6. Yeah, it's making the best of an unfortunate situation. You got to learn how to do that if you want to be good, because a lot of people, they blunder and they get so dejected immediately. They don't realize that the situation isn't as bad as they're making it out to be. So a5 would have weakened the b5 square, which is a very minor point. But just so you guys know, the move a5 would have weakened b5. Now, why am I not afraid of b4? I actually want him to go b4, because that would weaken the c3 pawn. I'm trying to lure him into creating weaknesses so that I can somehow counterbalance the fact that he has pressure on the king side, if that makes sense. Okay, so rook e1. Let's get the bishop out. Bishop e6, preserving the rooks on the board. That gives the game a little bit more flavor. We could have also gone bishop d7. That might have even been better. Supporting the rook on e8, I kind of missed that move, to be honest. But this is fine. So let's see what he ends up doing. Still a pretty dry position. Not much going on. We have a nice bishop. Bishop f6, queen h6 is fine for us. And of course, we want to play for a win here. That's just what I want to do. So let's see what he does. Maybe he overpresses. And this is annoying. No, this line is very annoying. I forgot about it, to be honest. Okay, so what should we do? he wants to trade bishops. We need to decide whether we trade. And if we are going to trade, we need to decide on what terms we want to trade. So actually, we are going to trade. And the basic reason is I get his queen out of h4, where it was annoying me by preparing bishop f6. Now we have an opportunity. We need to use this opportunity to try to seize control of the e-file. The e-file is the main artery to his position. How do we do that, right? Because one rook defends the other. But we have the move rook e5. The rook gets onto a defended square. It's like a checkpoint. And our idea is to double rooks. Now you guys might look at this and say, well, wait a second. He can go bishop f4. I know people are thinking this. But if he goes bishop f4, then the rook can reposition to f5. That does give up the e-file. That is true. But it puts a lot of pressure on his bishop and by extension on his pawn on f2. What I'm trying to do here is unbalance the position. Trying to get some intrigue going, some tactics, so that he has to calculate. Now he has a decision to make, which is a good thing in blitz. He's going to burn some clock. Decides to take. Of course, we take with the queen. Now this is under our control. Talking too fast. What should we do now? Where should we put our queen? We have several good options. Several good options. Let's go queen f5, though. Same idea as rook f5, pressuring f2. Now look at this bishop. What can you guys tell me about it? It's a what? It's a type what. And what should we do here? So we can just drop our bishop back, right? He can't take on c7 because it's a type 2 undefended piece, which means we need to notice that bishop and start calculating tactics in relation to it. That also means the queen is tied down. And if we attack the queen, it's going to have a very, very hard time keeping the bishop protected, which is why he drops it back. Now, we need to start playing aggressively here, which often means sacrificing something. So I have a very interesting idea in mind. Rook e8. Now, we're sacrificing a pawn in order to grab control of the e-file, but I have made a judgment call. The judgment call is that seizing control of the file is so important that it is actually worth giving up the c7 pawn over it and potentially even more pawns. I also have a tactical idea after queen takes c7. He's deciding whether to capture. I can see the wheels turning in his head. Okay, now let me explain this idea. What is our top wish list item? What would be like the ideal scenario here? Wait, not rook e2 because of rook f1. Let me kind of justify it. So the wish list scenario is checkmate on e1. We want to get the queen to e1. If we go queen e4, we telegraph the pass, right? He can go h3. So can we set up a situation where we can simultaneously threaten checkmate and something else? The move is h4. Now he has to take, I think, otherwise he loses f2 with mate. We get the bishop on a type 1 undefended square, and then we fork it by playing queen e4. There's complications there. He can try to defend the bishop and mate against it at the same time, but that creates other weaknesses. Then we threaten the bishop. That's it. And that's the whole logic. This is not that complicated. I think h4 is a really, really strong move. That's what I saw when I sacked the pawn. I'm sure there were other ideas here, and I think he probably has some sort of a defensive resource, but we'll see if he finds something. Right, so bishop takes d6. Don't forget why we played queen f5 in the first place. Don't forget that we're extraing that pawn. And he's paying the price for that now. That pawn is going to be unattended, and if we take it, we can then get a rook or a queen to e1. That's a sexy move. Yeah, I think he's... Okay, so I saw this too. And this is a very strong defensive idea. He wants to play hg, queen takes a7, that queen is guarding f2. So how do we need to think about the situation? Well, we need to... First of all, we still have the idea of bringing the queen to e1. We cannot go queen e4 because he trades queens. But we can... what can we do here? What are our options? Well, we can play queen takes c2, but then he takes a7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go queen e6. I'm going to go queen e6. I'll explain type 1 and type 2, guys, but you have to let me... You have to understand that there are people joining the stream who are new. Oh, my God, he defended. He found a way to defend. Amazing. Because rook e7, he's got to check. Ay. All right. I'm going to have to take. Okay, this is bad. But there is the good news. The good news is his king is still very weak, which gives us hope. But in general, we're fighting for a draw now. We're going to snag off one of his pawns. He actually found a brilliant defensive idea here. We'll talk about it after the game. For now, we have to defend. We're going to be down a pawn at the end of the day, which is fine because his king is still quite weak. Our pieces are very active, and we're only down a pawn, and he's got a weak pawn on a4. But I don't want to trade queens. If we want to keep winning chances alive, We need to activate our pieces ASAP. How do we do that? How do we activate our rook? Where do we put it? What is so brilliant about rook f1? Well, Nuke, I think it's a nice move. I'm sorry if it was very obvious. So first of all, rook e5 is correct. Okay. Now we're going to lift the rook up. We're going to lift the rook up, threaten checkmate. Okay, we're going to threaten checkmate. Now what? What do we do now? He's weakened the diagonal. How do we exploit it? Quickly. Help me out here, guys. How do we exploit it? Boom. And he has to go f3. But now, let's snag the pawn. Intermediate move, snagging the pawn, making sure the material is equal. Now, let's go in for the kill. Queen e2 threatens checkmate. It threatens a lot of checks. We're going to take here. We're threatening checkmate again. King h7, I don't see a defense, and he's lost. He has to give the queen up. Boom goes the dynamite. Thank you, Brett Toad, for the prime. So we won in the end, but that was a very back-and-forth game. But it was a really interesting game. So, in the 4 knights defense, knight e4. So type 1 and type 2 undefended pieces, guys. Type 1, undefended by anything. Type 2, defended only by exactly one piece. So he plays this line with e5. One of the main lines here is bishop back to c4. You don't really want to give that bishop up. But he goes for this very drawish line where there's a lot of trades. We develop our bishop, castle, castle, bishop d3. And somewhere here I made a mistake. I'm not sure exactly what the theory is here. But I think that somewhere here... So I think here I shouldn't have played queen. Actually, this is fine, but here g6 was a mistake. G6 was a mistake. What should I have done instead? H6 is correct. And we stop bishop g5, and we defend against mate. I just didn't realize that the holes I'm making on the king side are significant. I forgot about this move. And actually, this move happens whatever we do. I can't defend against bishop g5, which brings us into a very nasty situation. Now, if we just pretend that nothing's happening, he gets the bishop here, and he clamps down, and look how passive this is. He can bring the rook to e1. He's got lobster pincer ideas. I didn't want to allow this to happen. Now, 1 second. Okay, so basically, if we go rook e6 to try to defend against the f6 square, then bishop c4, okay? And we have to bring our rook back. So we have to allow it, but I did that by setting up the h6 square for our queen, so we at least keep some pieces active, a4, a6. Again, a5 would have weakened the square. And also, I wanted to lure him into going b4, so that he weakens these squares, right? So bishop b6 takes, and rook e5. Now the battle revolves around the e-file. Battle starts revolving around the e-file. Who can get control of the e-file? If he goes bishop f4, I can reposition to the f-file. You have to be flexible. He takes, and in this position, I have a choice. I can maintain my control over the e-file. How can I do that? If I wanted to maintain control over the e-file, where should I have put my queen? Yeah, I should have put it not on e2, that blunders the queen. Not queen e6, guys, because then he takes and he gets control of the e-file, but on e7. You shouldn't be afraid to make retreating moves at various points. Then I can go rook e. But I wanted to play more adventurously, so we got queen f5. Trying to exploit the weakness of f2. Also, I'm attacking c2. Okay. So this is where I made the judgment call to sacrifice on c7. And in retrospect, that might have been wrong. So I could have gone c6 here and defended it. He cannot take on d6 because f2 drops. Perhaps I could have done that. And instead, I decided to sack the pawn. So here, let me unpack for a second the idea of h4. So h4 basically tries to lure his bishop onto an undefended square. If we go queen e4 immediately, that is what I compare this to is telegraphing the pass in basketball. That's like holding the basketball over your head and looking at the person you're going to pass the ball to. Well, the opposing team is going to see, in football, that's the thing, it's going to see who you want to pass it to. And he can prevent the mate with h4. So instead, we lure the bishop onto h4. And then we're going to go queen e4, and this creates a fork against these two pieces. If he goes g3, he weakens his control over f2. We can slide our queen into f3. Okay? And I think this creates very, very big threat. I'm not sure this is winning, but it creates big threats against his king. Black has a pretty strong attack. Donations. We got a donation. Sorry, I might have missed it. Oh, $1 from Brackaboy. Thank you so much. Sorry, I missed that dono. $1 from Brackaboy. But yeah, I try to read donations when possible because I have the alerts on. Okay. So queen f3. would have been very strong. But instead, what did I blunder? Queen takes b7 is super strong. Fable, thank you for the spam. If hg, he goes queen takes a7 and simultaneously defends f2. This is what I missed. So I decided to go queen e6, sticking to my old idea. But now rook f1 is super strong. He gets the rook onto f1 so that this move is no longer check, and he doesn't have to take my queen. He can just take the bishop, for example. Okay? And what I decided to do, and at the end of the day, I'm in trouble. At the end of the day, I'm in trouble, because if I now move my bishop back, maybe this was correct, actually. But then he plays bishop takes h4, and I can no longer get the queen onto e4. The great thing about this move isn't that it only takes the pawn, it also brings the e4 square under control. So look for these kinds of intermediate moves. Okay, so rook f1. I acquiesce to a bad position, but at least black has piece activity in return for the pawn. I think winning this would be really hard. I actually think black's drawing chances outweigh white's winning chances. Activating the rook, and here he made a very big mistake. How should he have defended the pawn on g2 without weakening his kingside? Not a pretty move, but I think that g3 set him up for trouble. So there's two possibilities here that would have both been better than g3. The first is f3, which at least is not as bad, but I think queen h2 would be the most circumspect. It is true I can take his pawns now, but it's a draw. g3 set him up for trouble, because now he has all of these weaknesses, and this is so hard to defend in a blitz game. I'm pretty sure you can still make a draw, but in a blitz game, these kinds of positions are super hard to defend because it's a king weakness. Okay. So that basically won the game. Very back and forth. Very well played by my opponent, which is awesome. My opponents are putting up a great fight, and we're almost at 2,200. So we're 300 points away from the conclusion of the speedrun. It's been an amazing ride so far, but I think I'm going to stop for today here. I've got a lot of work to do, guys. Unless there's serious objections, I think this might be a good time to pause for the evening. Rencro, thank you for the prime, skis. Thank you for the prime. I see people trying to brag me 245 from Lukey. There's objections. Objection, Your Honor. Yeah, just give me a second. Let me sip some water. Yeah, the thing is, guys, this does take a lot of energy. You know, I'm trying to really, every move, I'm trying to engage with the position. And, uh-oh, here come the Brebs. Happy Pineapple 007, 5 gifted. Fair enough. Okay, we'll do an encore. One more. We'll do one more. 5361. That's a great number. We'll do one last one, guys. Just give me a second to compose myself. Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks, Happy Pineapple 007, gifted 5. Appreciate it very much. Okay. Oh my god. Here we go. Tasibs, matching it. 5 gifted as well. This man is on a tear today. Tasibs, thank you for the 5 gifted. No, I'm not trying to elicit people's sympathy. I really enjoy this. This is a lot of fun, but this is awesome. Okay. So let's go into the pool. I think I'm good now. Have a little coffee. Compose myself, get my voice back. Holy smokes. That's awesome, Julian. All right. Let's play. One last one, guys. Hey, guys, this is John. Whew. Okay. Now everything is going to be up on YouTube. Oh, thank you, Mad Knox, my man. Oh, I might have missed it. Sorry, Mad Knox. I'm really sorry. I'll look back at it. Okay, so let's go back to the Sicil. Actually, let's play an Alekhine. Now, so a lot of people wanted me to play it. G. Bribic, another sub, wanted me to play an Alekhine. I will respond. Now, in this position, we can take the knight. The issue with taking the knight is that he can take with the d-pawn, and he accelerates the pace of his development. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop the knight back to b6, and we're going to control the center ourselves, either with d5. But the Alekhine is what kind of opening? Fill in the blank. Now, we need to go a5 to stop him from doing that. And who can summarize to me the sort of fundamental logic behind these types of openings? It's called a hypermodern opening. Now, the hypermodern, it's not about controlling the center with as many pawns as possible. It's about making sure that you can attack your opponent's center with these pieces. You want to provoke your opponent into controlling a lot of the center. Julian Berman, thank you. So we can't go d6. That was the point of his move. Now, what should we do? Unless he doesn't control the center, then we can actually finally, we can make a claim to the center. But let's actually go. So knight c6, he would have d4. And I want to keep the c file open. Let's actually go c6. Let's get the bishop out. And let's go d5. So our opponent has decided not to control the center at all. So we have nothing to attack. So again, flexibility, flexibility, flexibility. In any opening, you want to have the idea of changing your strategy if your opponent does something weird. You can't put your head down and always do the same thing every time. People get into trouble because of that. How should we go about developing this bishop without obstructing this bishop? If we play bishop g4, he can start chasing our bishop around. Yeah, we fianchetto and we attack e5. Good job. Bishop g4, he would play h3. That would be kind of an empty pin. Okay, so he's going to fianchetto his own bishop. Let's castle. Let's complete our development. Now let's take a look at this knight. Let's take a good hard look. Ooh, h4. Okay. Now action on the flanks, as we know from a very important principle, is oftentimes met with action in the center. What does that mean? How do we ensure active development of this knight? Bingo. c5, knight c6. Now, why are we putting the knight on c6? It's more active. If we go knight d7, we block our own bishop, and we potentially can consider c4 pressuring his position. That doesn't trap the bishop, because he can play bc and get the bishop to e4, so we need to be careful about that. 1 second. Okay, so knight c6 attacking e5. Knight c6 attacking e5. And then if knight f3, what now are we going to do? Thanks again, guys, for all of the support and the engagement. Most of all, everybody being engaged makes this better. And yeah, this is awesome. Okay, so bishop g4 is correct. Now we pin him, because this pin has a very specific purpose. We are trying to win the e5 pawn. Now let's unpack the situation. We have many good moves here. There's many approaches to the position. He cannot push the pawn because his bishop is type 1 undefended. How do we apply pressure on this pawn? How do we apply pressure on this e5 pawn? That would be the most consistent strategy. We can also go knight b4. We can consider c4. There's a lot of possible moves here, but let's keep things consistent with our general approach, which is to win that central pawn. Thank you, Dovis7. And this is annoying because it's hard to defend against consistency. Appreciate it, Dovis7. Priming. But we shouldn't necessarily play bishop f3, bishop e5. So we can win the pawn. We can play bishop f3 and bishop e5. But there's a little bit of complication there, so let's do it. We also have to be careful. Our king side, okay, which way should we take the pawn? Very, very important. Which way should we take the pawn? So not bishop takes because of knight takes d5. We should take it with the knight to attack his queen. If we had taken with the bishop, we would have allowed knight takes d5. Now we attack his queen. And believe it or not, there's something I missed here. And yes, I do miss tactical details occasionally. He actually can still play knight takes d5 because it attacks my queen. And that leads to a very interesting and very complicated situation. I think he's calculating this. I will still be better because we will be able to move our queen away and force him to take my knight with his bishop, weakening his own king. I'll explain that situation if he takes on d5. That's not an easy thing to see, because a lot of people would automatically bring their queen back or take on e5, which would be even worse because we could checkmate him. But we will see if he finds it. Yeah, so you just got to be attentive to this stuff. And that's a mentality. That's a mindset, in my opinion. That's a mindset of not taking things for granted and always questioning your opponent. He does it. Now, what's the issue? The issue is, Twitch, let's go. Thank you, Davina. Rating 51. Appreciate it. We're attacking. We're doing the speedrun. Attacking the queen and attacking the knight. Does that make sense, guys? If he moves the queen, we take his knight. If he moves his knight, we take the queen. So he has to take on e5. Now, which way do we take? I just gave it away. Doesn't queen takes e5, blunder knight takes b6? Same mentality. We don't take things for granted. We don't assume anything about what we have to do. We consider all the options. No, because of checkmate. He's got to drop his knight back. Amazingly, he holds on. Now we have an opportunity. We need to strike. We need to strike while the iron is hot. What does it mean to strike in such a situation? Couple of things to notice. Number one, knight is tied down. If the knight moves, he gets checkmated. Boom. We need to open up files for our pieces. And notice that I'm making this move without calculating. I just want to open stuff up. It's only sacrificing a pawn it's not a big deal. And we're opening up the c file, and if he takes with a pawn, then we can actually play knight takes a4. Oh, that is a very bad move. That is panic. But let's be logical in our thinking. The knight is hanging. Can we defend the knight with tempo and then win the bishop? Yeah, simple move, rook a b8. Queen has to move, and then cd. So he might trade queens here, but we're going to be up a piece. Once again, excuse me, transforming our advantage. Yeah, that was panic, but he was already in big trouble. Okay, so he's creative, but this is not good enough. So actually here, if we want to play for maximum, what he's allowed us to do is an opportunity. Let's not rush with taking the queen. I know a lot of people want to take, but we can just move our queen to c5 because the situation remains. His queen is attacked, and now, in addition to everything else, our queen has access to the a3 square. In fact, I'm telling you guys, we might not even need to take the bishop. We might checkmate him even without that. That was impulsive, but it was also panicky, and I understand why. So, well, just in case, I'm putting out one video a day. My editor is working very hard. As you know, I have a lot of things I'm up to, so it takes time. Now, actually, who with a keen tactical eye can find the win here? Forget the bishop. We have a better move. Remember that his knight is tied down. Well, we are speedrunning the editing, believe it or not. It's harder than it seems. Bingo. Good job, guys. Knight is tied down. Pawn is pinned. Queen b2 threatened. He's made it in one. Simple, effective, and strong, and we didn't even need to take the bishop. That is why you don't rush, because you find things out about the position when you take your time and you look at the whole board. All right. Good game. We're going to go over the game, then we're going to pause for today. I know a lot of people like to bribe me, but this is going to be the last game. I still appreciate the bribes. So, okay. Good game. Make it look easy. Well, I mean, that's the point. Hey Rishodon, good to see you. All right, so 21.99. I know what people are thinking. The Alekhine. Now, knight c3 is a move, but here, bishop b5 was weird. I mean, he starts to just move his pieces around. He should have gone d4, and then we go d6, and this is sort of a main line of the Alekhine. Black will fianchetto the bishop. We will attack d5. We're trying to get him to take on d6 to give us more freedom. White is slightly better in these positions, but it's interesting. We've played this before. So bishop d3 is a bad move for the very elementary reason that it obstructs the pawn. I think he already at this point had the idea of fianchettoing, but it's just janky. d5. He could have en passanted us, but then we would have taken and developed our bishop to e7 and then castled. Black is completely fine. I think he should have done that, though. He goes knight e2, and now g6, fianchettoing the bishop, bishop b2, castles, h4, he starts attacking. So the principle dictates that when our opponent is playing on the flank, the J Moses, another 1,000, thank you, appreciate it. When our opponent plays on the flank, he takes his attention off from the center, so we should do something in the center. And I can show you guys a lot of instantiations of this principle in complicated positions. This is something that applies at a grandmaster level. I have a couple favorite games that really illustrate this concept. And sometimes, Cole Drogo, thank you for the prime. Sometimes playing the center involves doing something a little crazy. Sometimes striking in the center involves sacrificing. So let me show you guys very quickly. This is complicated, but I won't delve into any of the complications. So, Korchnoi against Luke McShane, British player. Very strong. And this position, Korchnoi goes h4. So Luke McShane takes on d5. And what seemingly crazy move do you think he plays? By the way, I want you guys to notice the x-ray. That is going to be important. Boom! e5, ripping open the position. And the reason he does that is that white is not developed enough on the king side. Now the point is, if f takes c5, then knight c6 is a beautiful move, using the x-ray. And if bishop takes b6, then black has a humongous attack in return for the piece. And this is just crushing. And if bishop takes e5, then we have that e-file. McShane didn't end up playing rook e8, but now we use the bishop to accelerate our development. And black gets a big initiative, McShane won the game. So there's many details there, but I just wanted to show you guys this does actually is applicable at the grandmaster level, very much so. So remember that. So c5. Now knight f4, I think, is a very expensive waste of time. You should have probably gone h5. But now he gets in big trouble because his e5 pawn is indefensible. We pressure it. Now we play bishop takes f3 and knight takes e5. If bishop takes e5, he plays knight takes d5. Some of you might think, oh, wait a minute, we fork his king and knight, but he can just drop the knight back. And it's very important for us to keep the bishop, because this bishop is the main attacker, as you guys saw in the game. Knight takes d5, good job by my opponent, but it doesn't actually really help because of this. And now c4 opening up the position. If b takes c4, what would we have done? Well, I understand his panic because he's on the cusp of getting checkmated. Yeah, knight a4 is very simple. So he plays queen b7. But if bishop takes c4, then we'd go knight c4. Then we could go queen c5 or we could go rook c8. I mean, there's a lot of moves here that end up with the same results. And this is just pretty crushing. So he goes queen takes b7. And after rook a b8, f4, queen c5, we don't even need to play rook takes b7 and cd. So this is just winning. Queen a3, knight takes a4, and queen a1 is checkmate. And that's just a very simple attack. We didn't even have to take the bishop. So this is just winning. Yeah, 1 p.m. tomorrow, Bullet Championship Final. So that basically was, again, it was the speedrun. We're almost at 2200.